There's a well-intentioned piece of advice that's been repeated so often by so many people that it's become almost gospel in our culture. Eat less. Watch your portions. Cut back. As we age, we're told, our metabolism slows down, we move less, and therefore we should eat less to avoid gaining weight. It sounds perfectly logical. It's been the foundation of dietary guidance for older adults for decades. Doctors have recommended it. Family members have encouraged it. And millions of seniors have dutifully followed this advice, reducing their food intake, eating smaller portions, and feeling virtuous about their restraint. But here's the shocking truth that emerging research is revealing. For many older adults, eating too little is far more dangerous than eating too much. In fact, one of the most critical dietary mistakes that shortens lifespan in the elderly isn't overindulgence. It's undernutrition. It's not getting enough protein, enough calories, enough nutrients to maintain the muscle mass, immune function, and physiological reserves that keep you alive and independent. Welcome to Elderly Discoveries. Today, we want to challenge a belief that's so deeply embedded in our thinking about aging and diet that what I'm about to tell you might sound completely backwards. But the science is clear, and the consequences of getting this wrong are severe. We're talking about increased frailty, higher rates of hospitalization, loss of independence, and significantly shortened lifespan. The dietary pattern that works for middle-aged adults trying to prevent obesity and heart disease is not the same pattern that protects elderly adults from the decline that actually kills them. Let's explore what's really happening, why this mistake is so common, and most importantly, what you should be doing instead. Let me tell you about Arthur. Arthur is 81 years old. He's always been health conscious. He watched his father die of a heart attack at 60, and he was determined not to follow the same path. Throughout his 60s and 70s, Arthur was careful about his diet. He avoided red meat, limited his portions, ate plenty of vegetables, and kept his weight stable. His doctor praised him for his discipline. His cholesterol numbers were good. His blood pressure was controlled. By conventional measures, he was doing everything right. But around age 78, something started to change. Arthur began losing weight without trying. At first, he was pleased. He thought he'd found the perfect balance. But the weight loss continued. His pants became loose. His shirts hung on him. His wedding ring started sliding off his finger. His daughter, who visited weekly, became concerned. She noticed that her father, who used to garden for hours and walk to the store regularly, now seemed tired after minor exertion. He'd sit down more frequently. He moved more slowly. When she'd take him out to dinner, she noticed he'd order the small portion, eat half of it, and claim he was full. She encouraged him to eat more, but Arthur resisted. He didn't want to overeat. He was afraid of becoming overweight and unhealthy. He was following the advice he'd heard his whole life. Eat less, especially as you get older. Then Arthur caught a simple respiratory infection. What should have been a minor illness turned into a 3-week ordeal. He ended up in the hospital with pneumonia. His recovery was slow and difficult. The hospitalization revealed the truth. Arthur was malnourished. His protein levels were dangerously low. His muscle mass had declined significantly. His immune system was compromised. The very diet he thought was keeping him healthy was actually making him frail and vulnerable. So what's happening here? Why is undereating so dangerous for older adults? It comes down to several interconnected biological realities. First, as we age, our bodies become less efficient at building and maintaining muscle. This process is called anabolic resistance. When a young person eats protein, their muscles respond readily, using those amino acids to repair and build tissue. But in older adults, that same amount of protein produces a much weaker response. You need more protein, not less, to maintain muscle mass as you age. Yet many seniors are doing the opposite, reducing their protein intake in an effort to eat lighter or avoid meat. Second, muscle mass is not just about strength or appearance. It's about survival. Your muscles are your metabolic reserve. When you get sick, when you're fighting an infection, when you're recovering from surgery or injury, Your body needs amino acids and energy. If you don't have adequate muscle mass, your body has nowhere to draw from. You enter what's called a catabolic state, where your body starts breaking down essential tissue just to keep vital organs functioning. People with low muscle mass, a condition called sarcopenia, have dramatically higher rates of complications from illness, longer hospital stays, and higher mortality. Third, appetite naturally decreases with age. This is partly due to changes in hormones that regulate hunger, partly due to decreased sense of taste and smell, and partly due to social factors like eating alone or depression. Many older adults simply don't feel hungry the way they used to. If they're also trying to deliberately restrict their eating because they think they should be eating less, this compounds the problem. They're fighting against an appetite that's already diminished, leading to severe inadequate intake. Fourth, the fear of weight gain and chronic disease that dominated health messaging for decades was primarily aimed at middle-aged adults, the population most at risk for obesity-related conditions. But those same messages were absorbed by older adults and continued to guide their behavior long after their health priorities should have shifted. The biggest health risk for an 80-year-old is not heart disease caused by being 20 pounds overweight. It's frailty, falls, infections, and loss of independence caused by being undernourished and losing muscle mass. The research backing this up is extensive and consistent. A landmark study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association followed thousands of older adults and found that those who were slightly overweight, with a BMI in the overweight range, actually had lower mortality than those who were normal weight or underweight. This phenomenon, sometimes called the obesity paradox, suggests that carrying some extra weight in older age provides a protective buffer. Another study focusing specifically on protein intake found that older adults consuming less than the recommended amount of protein had a 60% higher risk of losing the ability to perform basic daily activities like dressing, bathing, and walking. Perhaps most telling is research on what happens after illness or hospitalization. Older adults who go into a health crisis with good nutritional status and adequate muscle mass recover faster, have fewer complications, and are far more likely to return to independent living. Those who are undernourished before the crisis often never fully recover. They move from hospital to rehabilitation facility to nursing home, losing independence permanently. The trajectory of their final years is determined, in significant part, by whether they had adequate nutritional reserves going into that critical moment. So, what does adequate nutrition actually look like for an older adult? Let's start with protein. The current general recommendation is about 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. But for older adults, many researchers now recommend 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram, and even higher for those recovering from illness. For a person weighing 70 kilograms, or about 154 pounds, that's 70 to 84 grams of protein per day. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the amount in 3 to 4 palm-sized servings of meat, fish, eggs, or legumes spread throughout the day. That's not a small amount, and it's more than many seniors are currently eating. Equally important is distributing that protein throughout the day. Research shows that older adults benefit more from having substantial protein at each meal, rather than having a small amount at breakfast and lunch, and then a larger amount only at dinner. Each meal should include a good protein source. This might mean eggs at breakfast, chicken or fish at lunch, and meat, beans, or tofu at dinner, with protein-rich snacks like Greek yogurt, nuts, or cheese in between. Calories matter too. Many older adults are simply not eating enough total food. They might have a piece of toast and coffee for breakfast, a small salad for lunch, and a modest dinner that might total 1,200 to 1,400 calories, which is far below what most older adults need to maintain their weight and muscle mass. Unless someone is completely sedentary, most older adults need 1,800 to 2,200 calories or more per day. Being slightly hungry is not a virtue in older age. It's a warning sign. After Arthur's hospitalization, everything changed. His doctor and a nutritionist sat down with him and his daughter and completely reframed his understanding of healthy eating. They explained that at 81, his priority was no longer preventing heart disease through restriction. It was maintaining strength, resilience, and independence through adequate nutrition. They created a plan that felt revolutionary to Arthur. He was told to eat 3 full meals a day, to include protein at every meal, to not leave the table hungry, to have snacks, to drink protein shakes if he couldn't eat enough solid food, to view food not as an indulgence to be minimized, but as medicine to be taken seriously. The change wasn't easy at first. Arthur's appetite was small, and eating more felt uncomfortable. But gradually, over weeks and months, his body responded. He started regaining weight. His energy improved. His strength came back. He was able to return to his garden. He could walk to the store again without exhaustion. At his 6-month follow-up, his muscle mass had measurably increased. His protein levels were normal. His immune markers were stronger. Most importantly, he felt like himself again. He'd pulled back from the edge of frailty and reclaimed his vitality. The practical advice here is clear. If you're over 70, or if you're caring for someone who is, you need to actively monitor food intake and prioritize adequate nutrition. Don't assume that less is better. Watch for unintended weight loss, which is one of the most important warning signs of inadequate intake. If someone is losing weight without trying, that's not something to celebrate. It's something to address immediately. Make protein a priority at every meal. Choose nutrient-dense foods like eggs, fish, poultry, dairy, beans, and nuts. Don't be afraid of healthy fats from sources like olive oil, avocados, and fatty fish. They add calories and important nutrients. If appetite is poor, focus on making every bite count. Fortify foods with extra protein powder. Add cheese or nuts to dishes. Use whole milk instead of skim. Include calorie-rich smoothies or shakes. Eat with others when possible, as social eating stimulates appetite. Address any medical issues affecting eating, like dental problems, difficulty swallowing, or medications that suppress appetite. And most importantly, let go of the restrictive diet mentality that might have served you in middle age, but is now working against you. The shift in thinking required here is profound. For decades, we've been told that the path to health is through restriction, discipline, and eating less. But in older age, health comes from abundance, from nourishing your body generously, from maintaining the reserves that will carry you through inevitable challenges. The diet mistake that shortens lifespan isn't the extra piece of chicken or the full-fat yogurt or the second helping at dinner. It's the fear of eating enough. It's the internalized voice saying you should eat less when your body is desperately signaling that it needs more. Arthur learned this lesson almost too late, but he learned it. And now, at 81, he's not just surviving, he's thriving. He's living proof that with adequate nutrition, it's possible to rebuild strength, reclaim independence, and add not just years to your life, but life to your years. Thank you for joining us on Elderly Discoveries. Here's to eating enough, staying strong, and nourishing the bodies that have carried us this far with the abundance they need and deserve.